Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. A few days back I headed out and I collected some of my buckets that I keep out and about in different places. And I kind of wanted to take you guys along and show you what those buckets look like and kind of the contents of them and what they look like after they'd been out in the environment for a while. And a couple of the buckets had been out for 18 months or so, but my editing app crashed and it took my footage along with it, so I couldn't really piece that together for you guys. But I did repack my buckets like I intended, and this bucket in particular that I'm going to show you here, I kind of wanted to repurpose more from just the food and water and sanitation so it could help me out possibly in the upcoming hunting season. So I added a little bit of gear to this bucket, and I'm just going to open this up here and I'm going to kind of show you what I put into this bucket here and kind of give you a little bit of a brief, I guess, description of what I have in here. But I'm going to tilt my camera down here. When I opened these buckets up, they were a little bit on the musty side, and this one actually had a little bit of moisture in it. And I don't know if it was from leaking or from condensation, but I actually had the stuff in there packed really good, and I just cleaned this bucket out and I repurposed it. And this is kind of how I got these buckets packed. And this one in particular, like I said, is going to have hunting gear in it because I want to have this bucket out there with me in case I happen to get a deer this year during this year's hunting season. So anyway, this is kind of what this looks like. One thing I always put in my buckets is I always put a small spade or trowel in there so I can dig a hole if I have to either bury waste or dig a little bit of a fire pit or whatever. And then how I pack these is I take a cheap Walmart poncho, and actually the poncho that had been in the other bucket for about, like I said, about 18 months was a little bit musty smelling, so I kind of discarded that one and cleaned this bucket out, and I actually repacked this with a clean new poncho here. But what I got in here on top is a little bit of hunting gear. And the big thing, you don't want to have real expensive stuff in these buckets because, you know, they still are out in the environment, and you know, you don't want to put anything in these buckets that you're not willing to lose. So this is all kind of cheap stuff that's in here, but it can help me out in a pinch. Another thing, I don't bury these buckets. These buckets are not buried because we're very cold here. Anything that would be buried would be very hard to retrieve in the wintertime, so I just hide them really good. Anyway, this is kind of some of the hunting gear, and this is kind of the first piece here. What this is this is a small saw. And this is a particular kind of saw. I'll take it right out of here. It's a particular kind of saw. It's got this round tip on the end here. Now this can help me cut small limbs, and it can also help me cut the pelvis out of a deer. If you've ever field dressed a deer, you have to cut the center of the pelvis out to complete the job. And this round tip here will prevent you from getting down into the intestines and stuff, which could taint and ruin your meat, and you don't want to have that. But another thing that this saw is good for, set this off here to the side real quick, is to make something like this. And what this is just a pole that I cut, and it's with just kind of a tie down that you do use on a trailer, and you can make what's called a gambrel. And what a gambrel is it's you use that to hold the hind legs of the deer apart so you can hang it up. And that's why I got the saw with me. And I also, in this bucket, have one of these straps with me that I can make a makeshift gambrel out in the woods in case I'm by myself and I got to get a deer hung up and field dressed and taken care of. And another thing is a chunk of paracord. Now this paracord I would use to tie those legs onto that stick and secure everything on that strap that I had. And if you double or triple this paracord up, you have a rope that's strong enough to hoist a deer up. It's pretty tough stuff once it's doubled up. So anyway, that's the other thing that I got in here. And as you can see, I kind of got everything in separate little bags just to kind of keep the dampness, condensation, and moisture away from this stuff. Another thing I got in here is just a pair of gloves. If you've ever field dressed an animal before, it's kind of a messy thing, so have a little pair of gloves like this will help help stay a little bit tidier, especially if I'm going to be out in the woods for a couple of days when this is kind of all going on. And then the other thing is just a cheap and expensive fixed blade knife. This is a SOG brand. It's got a little bit of a clip-on sheath here. I can just clip this onto my belt, even if I'm not wearing a belt with whatever my hunting gear is. I got this right handy, and you can see here it's got a notch in the sheath too, so I can use it to cut my paracord without even taking it out of the sheath. So that's kind of what that stuff is, just specifically for field dressing animals. And then the other stuff in here is just kind of the basic stuff. I got got some wipes in here, like I said, just for sanitation purposes, but also for cleaning up after I would have to field dress something. Wipes are kind of important. Got just a regular MRE in here. The other buckets I had a couple MREs in them, but I don't think I need to have 2 MREs in this particular bucket, especially if I crack into this bucket. That means I probably have already got a deer down, and which means I got plenty of food. Actually, I don't have to worry about anything. And then I just got a freeze-dried Mountain House in here with some scrambled eggs and bacon. Again, if I crack this bucket open, I probably got a deer down, so I'm not going to be starving anytime soon if that happens. Got a small bottle of hand sanitizer, again, for cleaning up. And then these, I got a fire making bag, and I got this bag here is just got some salt in it, and it's got some drink mixes in it. It's got a cider in it. It's got some coffee in it. And the salt in these packets here, that salt is in case I do happen to shoot a deer and I want to stay the night out in the woods, and I can cut a hunk off the back strap or whatever, and I can use that salt to season that deer meat and cook it over the open fire. I also got 6 bottles of water in here where I'm at. It'll probably be snowing during hunting season, so I can melt snow as well. Just have a little bit of extra water in here, though. That way I don't have to boil it or purify it or anything. I just got it handy by me. And then the last thing is I got my I got a little bit of a fire kit here. I got a lighter. The other lighter that was in the other bucket didn't survive. Got too much moisture in it and it wouldn't work. I tried to revive it and put it back in here, but it just wouldn't go for me. So anyway, and then I got a small, real inexpensive ferro rod striker there. I got some disposable hand warmers, which if you just gutted a deer when it's 25 degrees outside and you just washed your hands off, your hands are going to be freezing, so you're going to need to warm up, and that's why they're in there. And then I got a little tube of lighter fluid, and I got a few cotton balls and Vaseline, and then I got a little metal cup here so I can boil water, or I can cook a little something in it if I need be over my fire. But anyway, just going to kind of pack this stuff back in here, kind of show you real quick how easy this stuff goes back in. And then the poncho, like I said, I just put the poncho down on in the bucket, and I kind of nest all this stuff into the center. Field dressing items here, and I normally have my pack and stuff with me in my truck when I'm out and about, but sometimes when you're hunting you don't necessarily get back to your vehicle right away. You might have to track something, you might hit something, you might have to find it, you might have to wait a little bit. There's just a bunch of different variables there that you just don't know. So it's best to kind of be really prepared when you go out on trips like this. But as you can see, that all kind of folds back in there, and all you do, put the tails of that poncho up. And of course the poncho is for keeping warm, but it's also kind of more of a ground cloth, or if I got to spread anything out on the ground, then it doesn't have to actually be on the ground. But then all I do is take my lid, put my lid back on there. You can see this bucket's been out. Still see the dirt and stuff on it from being out in the woods, but this it's got an O-ring on it, just one of those $3 or excuse me, 3-gallon $1 Walmart bakery buckets, and that's pretty much how that is. I'll give you another look here at this gambrel real quick, what that looks like again. And what you would do is you'd put put a hole in the deer's hind leg here, and then you'd slide the other leg on here, and then this is what would get hung up, and that'll hold the body cavity apart so you can finish field dressing it. But I just kind of wanted to show that to you guys, even though my footage kind of got ruined there of being out in the woods and showing you where I had these how I had these kind of hidden and stuff. Didn't turn out. I still think that there was enough information here that you guys might get something out of it, so I kind of wanted to share that with you guys. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. I appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys are getting a little information and a little entertainment out of my videos. Hope this stuff kind of helps people out as far as what they can put in a bucket, or give them some ideas if they want to build one of these buckets for themselves. But anyway, you guys have a great night.